You had mentioned that at one point you realized, and even John Laurinaitis mentioned that you couldn't just be the Saudi guy. And you were in one of the shows you missed. Given how you started in WWE with these big moments in Saudi and their relationship with Saudi Arabia and being the first Saudi Arabian superstar in the WWE, I can only imagine that hurt, Mansoor, because I feel like when someone takes away like the big thing that started you off, and it's your identity, you can't change that. And it kind of sucks that was not enough. You get what I'm saying?
A little bit, yes and no. I actually, in a way, when I found out I was going to get this maximum male model gimmick, I was actually kind of excited because I felt that I'm so tremendously proud to be Saudi. I grew up in Saudi Arabia for pretty much my entire childhood. I moved to the States when I was like 11 years old, 12 years old. And I'll always remember that time fondly. And I love going back. I actually had the opportunity to take my daughter back there a few months ago, which was amazing. My sisters came and I brought my wife with me and we all got, I got to show them around the places that I grew up, which is like, it's on the other side of the world. You don't always get that opportunity to do that. So that was fantastic. And I remember getting messages and being reached out from Saudi fans who I was just like them as a kid. I never thought I would get to see a WWE show in Saudi Arabia. So being a part of that was like amazing. Like I'll never forget the Battle Royal and the match with Cesaro, which was like the match of my life. The pressure behind that match, people actually don't know. I was so excited to work Claudio because obviously he's one of the best wrestlers in the world, period, hands down. And I literally have pictures of me in high school wearing Cesaro t-shirts because I was like such a fan. And he was amazing and gracious and was incredibly generous, not just to put me over, but to have the match that we had that essentially made my career. So I can't thank him enough for that. But what I didn't know was at the time, apparently that match had serious geopolitical implications. Our producer was the Hurricane, who's one of my favorite producers. Shane's just amazing. And I remember during the day, Shane came up to me because we had worked a little bit before. He was a producer in NXT for a bit. And he came up to me and was like, hey, man, I don't know what it is, but everybody's on my ass about this match. I was like, what do you mean, Shane? And he was like, well, Vince was like, you should have taken Mansoor and Cesaro to the ring the day before. You should have rehearsed this match. This has to be a WrestleMania level match. And that's what he kept saying. He kept saying this has to be a WrestleMania level match. And they didn't know that I had like any wrestling experience. Actually, in the Saudi tryout, I was the only person there who had previous experience. I had wrestled on the indies for a little bit. And they were like, if this match isn't great, something is going to happen. And apparently there was some kind of like standoff with WWE and Vince and like the network or something. And they were threatening to not air the show. And apparently it was like, if this match didn't go well, where their Saudi guy didn't put on an amazing performance, then something was going to go wrong. But I'll never forget, like we had that match and it was a banger. And we get to the back and everybody, it looked like they had just averted a crisis. I was like, what is going on around here? Sorry, I forgot your question. Oh, right.
No,
being the Saudi guy.
Yeah, I definitely do because I'm thinking about this. So, okay, so Shane Helms comes up to you and he tells you that this is going on, that there's all of these pressures. Yeah. So he had already given you all of that information heading into the matchup, or did you find out all the details afterwards? Because I can't imagine what you're thinking at this point in time because, like, yeah, of course you had the wrestling experience, but even with wrestling experience, you still might feel like the pressure of being put in this spot where all of a sudden there's more to the picture than there is here.
I actually loved it. Is that kind of sick? I was like, whoa, like my performance tonight is going to affect people's lives. Cool. Is that insane? I don't know. Like I remember going out there and plus the energy from the crowd. This was my first singles match on a PLE in front of my hometown, a home crowd. My dad's in the audience, right? I have like 20 cousins in the audience. My brother who introduced me to pro wrestling is in the audience. And there's just like this buzzing and energy because like, I think people knew I was going to win, but that like thread of doubt that I wasn't was enough to make people sit on the edge of their seats and just like stand up and scream at every false finish. So I loved it. And knowing that there was like stakes within the match and stakes outside the match, kind of like, I was like, yeah, this is it. This is it. I can feel it. It added to it. I don't know why, but I think it also helped that Claudio was like, yeah, let's do this shit. Like he was like,
He was
oh
like,
yeah,
I got this.
I'm gonna make you look like $1 million. We're gonna have the match of the night, and it's gonna be easy. And for him, I'm sure it was.
Okay, so here's the thing though. So when it came to the issues and the reason why there was so much pressure on this, it wasn't specifically because they needed somebody who was Saudi Arabian to win the match and to have a good showcase, or what exactly was it that caused so much pressure onto this matchup?
I think they needed to be a good showcase because later on I found out actually that, and maybe this has something to do with the switch because it used to be the Sports Authority that was in partnership with WWE for these shows. And then it transitioned to the General Entertainment Authority. So these are two completely different departments of the Saudi government. And it might have been that with the Sports Authority, they were like, Mansoor has to have an amazing match. He's the Saudi guy. Like he has to have it. But then with the Entertainment Authority, I actually found out, and this is kind of embarrassing to admit, but I'll tell you, I was informed that they were like, Mansoor doesn't have to be on the show. And then that's why I wasn't on that Saudi show after the match with Mustafa, because basically they had told Vince, they were like, we'd prefer to have big stars. And I was like, what?
You're like,
what a blow to the
terrible
ego.
thing to say.
Yeah. But it is what it is. I took it as a challenge. I was like, okay, kind of like what Sami Zayn did, who I look up to tremendously. And to speak on your question, Sami Zayn is a guy who he has Arab heritage. He's Arab and he's Muslim, but it was never all he was. And I think that was the point that people were trying to make to me. Like, it's amazing to be proud of that and for that to be a part of you because it'll always be a part of you because it's who you are. But when that's all you are, it's difficult for people who outside of that cultural sphere to connect with you.